Garry Jack, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA.
Hey there, Jamie. Yeah, it's great to be on your program. Thanks for the invitation. I haven't been over there to Perth. Popped off there on the way up to Broome once, and that's about it. So I look forward to getting over there and having a chat with you and just seeing what's going on over there in Perth. Because I do work for the NRL and looking obviously expansion and for expanding the game, and certainly I'm sure Perth has been spoken about, in the future of the game. So I'm sure things will happen there in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, we know that PNG is probably in the prime seat at the moment with the government backing, but I think the WA people just feel like they keep getting left behind. You know, they were talked about as the 17th team, then the 18th team, and then there's all the talk of the merger with North Sydney, then the merger with Newtown Jets. You know, it's just, and it's, I think the Perth people are starting to get a bit annoyed with it because they sort of just getting left behind.
I think it just takes time, mate. You know, the new teams coming in. It's definitely going to happen. You know, it's sort of Redcliffe came in last year, or the Dolphins came in, and the game is expanding. So it's a new vision for the guys. I probably want to make sure they do it right and don't want to rush it. So I'm sure they probably the NRL do want to be national and international as well with New Zealand. So I think it's certainly on the horizon, mate. Certainly things will happen.
How many things do you reckon that the NRL could sort of facilitate? Yeah, do you reckon it would be up to 20 teams, maybe 21, 22?
I think they'll definitely go 20.
Yep.
I think they will go 20, maybe the next 5 years. And then everyone would play, then possibly, this is just me thinking out loud, they'd only have one round, everyone would play each other once, possibly two conferences, or two, you play two conferences, nine games each or whatever. So yes, a North or South conference or whatever. So I think that they need something to sort of even up the draw, because I don't think the draw's even at the moment, the way that you play some teams 4 times or 5 times and they might be down the bottom or they may be at the top. So it's just a matter of making the competition more fairer, and I'm sure the NRL are aware of that. And this is a great way. Everyone stays in the game to even up the competition and make it fairer. So you play each other once, and I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I've talked to rugby league fans over here, and that's what they get annoyed at. You know, they watch, for just an example, the Roosters play the Dragons, and then 3 weeks later they play the Dragons again, and it's like, how does that happen? They haven't even played half the competition, but they play the same team, within a couple of weeks of each other. It annoys a lot of fans, and especially over here because the AFL do it so well in the sense of they sort of go, one team plays every team once, and then they go through and start from the start again.
I understand, and me as a fan, I'm frustrated too watching it, saying that it's not fair. You can play a bottom team twice, and or a top team twice. It is unfair that the top 8 teams, there needs to be a better way, and it's sort of been around since the Super League finished. It's been around for 20 odd years. All these new teams that have come in, they're now part of the rugby league environment, but it needs to be fairer, and this is hopefully a way of making it happen. And no one wants to see teams get cut out or forced to merge. So certainly with the AFL, and obviously know a bit about the AFL. Their competition, that's the structure, is something that I think is a good way to be ran.
Yeah, well, I think the NRL sort of copied them a fair few years ago with the final structure, because the final structure wasn't working for the NRL. Teams were getting blown out one week, and then somehow they make it to the semi-finals or the grand final, and everyone's like, how does that work? And the NRL copied the AFL style, or
Yeah,
you
they
know,
did. Yeah,
and it works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A top eight, and then in those days, I think it was one plays eight and two plays seven, and now it's one plays four and five plays eight, which is it's a better way to go. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's how it was. Yeah, yeah. But now the game is always evolving, Jamie, and you know, it's great to be part of the game, and yeah, so it's always trying to get better. I know at the NRL we're always trying to get better, from what we try and do. Um, yeah, so I know I'm in that participation and pathways side with the NRL, always looking for talent and looking to bring juniors through,
yep,
um, right across Australia. Yeah, and so I think it's probably a perfect time for us to have this chat. And I said I'll be over there in probably 3 months' time, and we're gonna have a chat from there and see what we can do.
yeah. Well, I think the Dolphins and the Roosters come over this year as well to play. They're playing at our designated rectangular oval over here,
Yep,
Nib Stadium.
yep,
Um, so it's a good chance for Perth to put on a good show. The Dolphins came over last year as well.
yep.
In the double header, and they put on there's 45,000 people that turned up to the game.
Wow.
So you know
Yeah,
the game,
45,000. That's great.
and it was the great thing was because I was there, and I'm a Broncos supporter, and I always will be. Um,
I won't hold that against you, mate.
I was waiting for that, but it was great to see that there were so many rugby league fans there. Like nearly every team was represented there, whether
Yeah,
it be Warriors, a Balmain jumper, a St George
yeah,
jumper, Illawarra. All
yeah,
these old teams that
yeah.
people
North
supported
Sydney.
were,
Mm,
were represented. It's the people of WA just love rugby league and they love sports, and
yeah,
they can't get
sure.
enough of it.
Well, they did have the Western Reds for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. That I know rugby unions has been played over there or was played over there for a while. And so there certainly is that grounding there of rugby league, rugby union. The
Yeah,
games are similar but different. So there's a great base there for players, um, for them to come through into the NRL because they're already playing. They're playing either rugby league or rugby union. So
yeah,
that's where most of the players come from. Having said that, they still could come from AFL. Depending on their background, they still could come from AFL. So yeah, so it's great to see different. Yeah, there's so many great athletes out there that you can that the kids grow up playing all different kinds of sports, soccer, AFL, rugby league, rugby union. So someone's going to come through. I think what's difficult is when you get to about 16 or 15, you have to decide which one you want to play because it takes so much time up when you're training. So yeah, and cricket too. There's another
yeah.
sport there as well. So there's plenty of opportunity there.
Um, and that's one of our big things is our players from those ages that you were saying. We do lose them to rugby union because the Western Force are still around and they're doing all right in the Super Rugby. Um, we lose our young players to union because of that pathway system. Which is a shame, but you know, as long as my point of view also is that as long as they're playing a sport, I don't care. Um,
True.
but the talent that WA's and I guess the NRL could be losing is immense. So, I think
That's
we
right.
we we all need to try to figure something out to get those pathways and stuff going. So, all these kids can look up to the future stars or the stars of now
We
and
just, we just want them playing. We just want to be a fan of rugby league. And they get their family involved and the kids involved and for the girls too. There's pathways through for the women as well. NRLW has been fantastic. It's growing in momentum every year. So yeah, yeah, there's a great opportunity there for all young kids. There's a pathway through to the NRL, and we want to make it easier for them to fall in love with rugby league, and yeah, for it to be a way of life.
yeah, absolutely. Just want to jump into your career, mate. I mean, you've had an absolute stellar of a career yourself.
Thank you.
Started off, with West Illawarra back in the days in the
Oh,
1980s.
that's where I grew up. Yes, in West Illawarra. Yep.
Then you went Western suburbs, onto your main team, Balmain. Played 244 games for Balmain. And then you played a bit over in England. I was reading up on your stats. It was 87, 88. You sort of once the New South Wales rugby league had finished, you were able to go over to England and play over there
Yeah.
our off season.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. It was, yeah. For 4 months I spent with Salford over in Manchester.
um,
Yeah.
and then you got also play for New South Wales, Australia, city in the city versus country origin,
Yeah.
mate. And you've even got to coach Salford as well. Yeah, so like you've had an absolute stellar of a career. When
Thank
you
you.
look back at it, is there anything that you've taken away from maybe a coach or a person? I know you were coached by the great Warren Ryan. Is there anything that you've taken away from these people that you've been around that's helped you in life, got you through things?
Oh, I think there's plenty of lessons to be learned along the way from all different coaches. Um, Plenty of lessons. For me, success was I wasn't a very big kid, and I had to work hard, had to get fitter, had to get stronger as a young fella to get. I think I was about 75 kilos when I was about 18 or 19, so I wasn't very big, pretty lean, and I think I played at about 88 kilos. Um, but it's something that, for me, I just that discipline of training, that discipline of going to work, that discipline of being part of a team, and yeah, trying to improve yourself, trying to get I'd be the first one at training, and I'd be the last one to leave. That's just how it was. I'd always be there. If training started at 5, I'd be there at like 3. And I'd come from Wollongong to be there at 3 to play. So yes, there's stuff like that. It's just because I just love the game. And I think if you love the game, you'll do whatever. Warren Ryan was a great coach. He was probably the most strategic coach that I ever had. Um, he was ahead of the pack at the time, and the game was different back in the 80s too. It evolved, and Warren his defensive structures, he could shut down a team with his defensive plans, and teams found it very hard to beat sides that he coached, like Canterbury were successful. We were successful. Newtown was successful. So you take bits of the great defence and how Warren coached the game, and then you flip it over the other side where I had say someone like Alan Jones, who was completely the other side. He had no structure, and he was more just play what you see, and he didn't believe in structure. So I've seen both sides of the coin as a player, and it's funny, I come into the NRL, and you see all the training modules that we do now, and I've finished all the training schedules. I finished it last week, and right through from sevens through to under 19s, and you see how the game's evolved and how strategic the game is, and how they've identified areas of the game which which you didn't know at the time. Like there's how you play the game. You can play it strategically, or you're setting stuff up all the time, or you can play what you see, play what's in front of you. And that's, I think there's a combination definitely between the two. And we try, I think with the kids now, we try and make it 75-20. So 25 it's structure, and 75 it's play what you see.
Yeah,
So when the game was evolving as a player, I had the best of both worlds. But I've had great players that played with too, like guys like Wayne Pearce, who was probably the fittest guy in the competition, who changed the game because of his work ethic. And I was so lucky to play with Junior for 10, 11 years, and it rubbed off on me, and just that level of professionalism that you need to be at if you wanted to play. Um, you know, I was so lucky that went there at the right time. When I went to the Tigers in '82, they come last in '81. They won the wooden spoon in '81. So I went there at the same time as what Blocker was there. Blocker started there '82. Benny started '82. Benny Elias. Wayne had already been there, and so we built up a nucleus, and then we built a team, a great team. By the end of the decade, we're in two grand finals. It was a great time to play for Balmain. It was a great time to play footy. So I consider myself very lucky to have had that sort of career. But um, there's good and bad in everything you do, and I take the good out of everyone that I see, and there's always good, even though it might be bad. There's always good in it. You just got to look hard enough sometimes to find it. So, I consider myself very lucky. And with success, the harder you work, sometimes the luckier you get. So if you really work hard, you'll get there. You know,
Yeah,
you got to overcome injuries. You got to overcome setbacks. That's part of the game. You can't play this game without copping injuries. And if you do get an injury, you have to persevere. That thing called resilience. You have to try and bounce back, and you know you have to believe in yourself that you're gonna make it. I broke my leg when I was 17. The doctor told me that I'd never play again. It shattered me. I was absolutely distraught when I was 17. When he told me that news, and he said the only way I can fix it is if we had an operation. I said, well, when can you do the operation? He said, this was Monday. He said, I can do it Wednesday. I said, well, they booked me in for Wednesday, and that 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 I recovered and I played footy 6 months later. But being told that I'd never play again, it's a huge when you're only distraught. But you get over it. So there's lots of lessons, mate, that you can learn. That's the beauty of the game, and you want to share those points, those moments in your life with people to try and help them to become better players or better coaches. And I'm lucky that's what I'm doing now.
yeah. That's a great thing to do. To be a part of is teaching these young kids. Those resilient moments that because it's not just in football that they're gonna get these things. It's in life.
In
Um,
life, that's right.
I think a lot of the youth today, I guess, don't know how to deal with that sort of stuff. They've been pretty sheltered. A lot of their life is involved in front of a screen. And there's lots of adults that are the same, but the lives are pretty sheltered in that sort of sense. And so when that resilience or that um, the hard part of life that comes around, they don't know how to get around it and how to work with it and get through it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. And a lot of guys now, they're professional footballers, so they go straight from school into a footy club. They don't
Yeah,
get a job. They don't go to a job which maybe they don't like doing, but they have to go there because you need the money to pay the rent so you can get a car and all that sort of stuff. They get given stuff. So it's a different world. It's a completely different world to gee, when I was growing up, there's no thought of playing footy as a professional footy player. Teachers used to say to you at the time, "Oh, what are you doing playing footy at school? You never make any money out of that, like playing football." But that's what it was like in the 60s and 70s, and it flipped over in the 90s when I went to England and I played over there, and that was the first time I became a professional footy player when I was over at Salford and over at Sheffield as well. And it was great. I couldn't do it now. It's a great life. But that I was lucky that I worked, and that set me up for playing footy.
yeah,
My mum and dad were great. They helped as much as they could. They were very supportive and of me as a young player. And so all this sort of goes in together. And I've been very lucky to have had a great career. And you know, um, it's more than what I ever could have thought I would have done when I was a young fella at 19, 20 years of age. I exceeded all expectation of what I would have done.
I was reading, I've done lots of research on a lot of the footy players that I've interviewed. You would have seen the ARL or New South Wales going to the rugby league going to the ARL, and then they have that battle with the Super League where the game in Australia become that professional side of it where the guys are getting paid stupid amounts of money. Um, you know, how do you think that changed the game, and how did you feel about seeing that Super League ARL war at the time?
Oh, well, I sort of when the Super League War started, I know exactly where I was. I was over in Manchester. I was at Salford. I was playing there. I think it was the 1st of April 1995 was when the whole thing broke loose, and that's when it erupted from Super League to the ARL. Players were. It was all about television rights. Who wanted to control the game? News Limited wanted to control the game. They thought that they could do the right thing by the game, so players were getting paid, 4 or 5 times what they were probably worth. yeah, so it was a big division in the game. It took, without going through the whole ins and outs of it, it divided the game. Obviously, that two competitions that lasted for I think 1 or 2 years, and they got back together, which is good. And still, 20 years later, there's still that still a bit of animosity there. Some blokes are super leaguers and some blokes are ARL. I think it, it was all about the game becoming professional. Um, and it's a pity they couldn't have worked it out between themselves as to which how they're going to divvy up the television rights. Because 2 years down the track, they did sort out amongst themselves the big boys. The Ken Arthurssons and the Kerry Packers worked it out how they were going to do it. So but there was a lot of friendships broken, a lot of bad blood, a lot of animosity between players when they did come back together. Yeah, that's in the past now, and the players have great benefits. Much better benefits than we had when I was playing. They get well paid. Uh, the clubs get their money from the NRL. The NRL gets their money obviously from sponsors and from television rights. And I think it's great. In my day, we had leagues clubs. Leagues club provide all the funding for you to, your $1.5 million salary cap, whatever it was, or $1 million because through the league club grant. So you had to struggle and work hard to get your money. But now it's given to them from the NRL, which is great. Everyone gets the same amount of money. Want to be around $10 million, $11 million. And the salary cap, the salary cap makes it very, very hard for some teams to dominate. Because back in my era, teams like Manly, teams like the Roosters, they had a lot of the money. Even Canterbury, definitely Canterbury, and they bought all the best players. And that doesn't mean it's right, but that's just economics. That's how it works out. So the salary caps certainly even things up in conjunction with the two teams coming together. So players have fantastic. I can only just imagine how lucky they are to be full-time professional and getting their money every month and good luck to them because they deserve it. They deserve it. But it's on the back of the blokes that played in the 70s and 80s that made the game great. That these guys have had to cash in. Like for example, we played State of Origin. We played State of Origin. We played for New South Wales, the ultimate game playing against Queensland. If we played State of Origin, if we won, New South Wales and Queensland, well, we got $1,500 for a match. Okay, when you consider match payments for about $500, $1,500 is pretty good. But look, you don't do it for the money. You do it because you want to play for New South Wales and New South Wales to win. And you got $1,500 for a win, and you got nothing for a loss.
Yeah, right.
Nothing. No. All you got is your tracksuit and your jumper. When you played for Australia, when you played for Australia, and the highest honour that you had playing for Australia, how can you playing for every time you played for Australia, you got $200? That's it. $200. Wow, just people were taking a Lendia. They haven't a Lendia. And players got exploited. If you he's doing it, he wants the money. Well, everyone's going to play for Australia. Of course you are, because you're the best 5'8" or the best halfback or the best fullback in the land. Well, you should be paid accordingly. And now, because of what happened with Super League, if you play for State of Origin, it was 50, but $50,000 a game. Yeah. Now it's 40. If you play for Australia, it's now guaranteed $30,000 a game, not 200. So that's great. That's great what the players get back. And if I look back now, I played 22 tests and I played 17 Origins. I think that I could. If I'd have played now, I'd be a millionaire. But I'm not. So, but that's just how it is, and I'm glad the players get it because they deserve it. But it's the blokes before that help, dig the well. They shouldn't forget them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely correct. And I think that's what a lot of these young guys have forgotten, is that the guys like yourself, the guys that you played with in that era,
Brett Kenny,
the guys in the
Peter
70s,
Sterling.
yeah, they entrenched this stuff. They were the face of the State of Origins, the face of Australia.
Yep.
And you see these players now that they go, oh, I don't want to play for Australia, or I don't want to play Origin. And it's I think like, me growing up in the '90s watching the Origin games and the Australian games, it was a huge. It looked like it was a huge honor to play for Australia, play for New South Wales. And if you didn't get picked,
Yeah.
you didn't play because you were injured. That was or you didn't get picked. That was the only reasons that you didn't play. It's not because I want to sit out a year to focus on club. I get that point, but it seems to me, especially with the Australian side of things, that's diminished that how highly regarded it was. When you guys were, excuse me, traveling over to England and playing, doing a tour of England where you're playing all the local clubs, all the Super League clubs, and then you play England in a Tri Nations Ashes series. It
They
seems
weren't
to have
called Tri
diminished.
Nations. They weren't
So
called
yeah,
Tri Nations. They were called Test matches. Yeah, they were called Test matches. That's what they were called. Yeah, and we played all the club teams. Yeah, and you play Saturday and you play Wednesday. We did this for
yeah,
10 weeks. We played Saturday. It was fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
it was great to do it, and it's been lost to the game. That's the price that's happened because England's gone to summer rugby league, and there's a talk they may came back to winter again. But those all those great tours have been lost, so it'd be great if they come back again. But yeah, um, and some blokes, if you're only getting a couple of bucks, you're getting nothing, and you're risking injury too.
yeah,
Wayne Pearce did his knee playing for Australia, and he couldn't go on the '86 Kangaroo Tour, and Steve Roach, well, he didn't hurt himself playing; he was playing for a club game. But the guys that get injured in these rep games, um, you put yourself at huge risk of getting injured because you're playing at the two best teams in the country with the two best players are coming together, and they were fantastic games to be part of. And the chance of with the collisions, in those days too, like it was just they'd go high and it might be a penalty and or a punch or whatever, and it was a free for all. It was a free for all. So, but it was great to be out there, and there's that real chance that you could get hurt, and that could be the end of your career. And Les Kiss did his knee over there in England in '86, and Les Kiss was never the same player again when he was on tour. So we all took a risk and playing at that high level, but it's great to have been part of it and great to be part of footy in the '80s and '90s at New South Wales, Australia, and for Balmain.
yeah. Just on representing New South Wales and Australia, because you represented New South Wales and Australia in the same year. How was that call up? That feeling when you got the call up for the New South Wales Origin and then for the Australian Kangaroos tour.
Yeah, well, I remember where I was. I was at Balmain Leagues Club when they announced the state of origin side. It was over the PA at Balmain Leagues Club that I'd been picked in the Origin, and that was my dream was to play. Well, my dream was to play for Australia, but in order to do so, you had to play Origin. So that was the stepping stone. So that was great being there with my fiance and my mum and dad were there, and to get picked over the PA. And I think in the side also was Wayne Pearce was there, and Steve Roach were also on the same side. So that was great. And then when I got first picked for the Kangaroo or for Australia, the night after that night that we played, that night after we played Queensland for the first Origin in '84, that afternoon they had the ARL meeting with the QRL, and they decided to drop Arthur Beetson as the Australian coach, and they reinstated Frank Stanton as the Australian coach. And the Queenslanders weren't too happy about that, let me tell you. So we played the Queensland that night, and they beat us like I think it was 32 to I don't know 8 or 10 or something. They flogged us. They flogged us, and it wasn't a good night if they're picking the Australian team straight after the game, which they did. And I was at the function at the Travelodge Hotel there in Queensland, and I get a phone call from my fiance Donna, who's now my wife, and she said to me, "You're in the side. You're in the side." I said, "What do you mean I'm in the side?" "They've just announced on the radio you're in the test side." So really, I haven't even. They picked the team on level 7. We were in the ground floor in the auditorium, and so I got back to Sydney, and she called me, and that's how I found out I was in the Australian side. So that was fantastic to get in that side from there, and to know that I'd made the Australian side. I just wanted to play one test for Australia, which is great, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's how I found out.
That's so cool. Back in the day, it's over the PA or over the radio. It's not a. It wasn't a phone call like it is
No,
these days with the mobiles and everything
no,
else. So,
it's not the coach calling you up saying, "Guess what? Just let you know you're in the side." No, it was over the radio over a PA. Yeah, yeah,
oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's awesome to hear. Um, Looking at your career, mate, I guess the tail end of your career, 93 to 95, you go over to um, Salford, and you also coach as well as
yep,
play.
yep.
How was that experience for you? Coaching the guys that you're playing with.
Mm. Yeah, I was a captain. I was a player coach. That's right. There weren't too many player coaches around. That was my goal was to get into coaching. So it was a stepping stone, and then come back here. And my goal was to coach back here. But so in order to do that, I was about 31. I went to play 1 year at Sheffield. I played there. Then I was offered a role as captain coach the first year at Salford, and then just coaching the second year at Salford. So I jumped at it, and that's what I wanted to do. So it was difficult. I didn't when you're captain coach like. I wasn't. Dave. I had a guy called David Young, who was he played Welsh international. I made David the captain, so if they toss on the coin or talk to the referee, it was all David's responsibility. So I just wanted to play. I didn't want to coach tell blokes what to do. I'd coach them during the week what to do, and I'd play with them. And look, phew, hardest job of my life, captain coaching, hardest job ever, ever, ever. I never ever want to do it again. But I did it for 12 months, and yeah, the world was changing too. Captain coaches, you had to be more professional, and yeah, it was tough, but we got through it. We got through it, but yeah, I think you can do it. You can do it in the country, but it's hard to do it. That was in
Yeah,
the English Super League. Salford were in first division there against Wigan, St Helens, and all the other coaches were full time, and I was a player coach. So I think it was very difficult.
yeah. I was reading up on a few of your stuff after footy. You got into doing a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. You're currently working with the NRL. What else did you sort of get into after footy? Did you get into any more coaching?
Yeah, look, after I came back in '95. I played about 12 or 13 games for the Tigers in '95 under Wayne Pearson. I retired at the end of that year, and then I went and coached Rod Eastwood in the Metropolitan Cup, which is like Wentworthville. So like they're like the second tier competition. So I coached them full time for 12 months. We made the grand final. We got beaten in the grand final by Newtown. And then after that, then I retired after that as a coach. Um, so yeah, so then after then I had three boys. Like that, Kieran was probably 10 or 11. Reese was probably 9, and Brandon was about 4 or 5. So I had a young family, and so I trying to spend more time with them,
Yeah.
rather than coaching.
Boys, two of them
Hey,
went on to play. Speaking of your three boys, two of them went on
yeah,
to play for the Swans.
yeah,
How was
yeah,
that?
yeah,
How
yeah.
was that for you? Being a rugby league man, but having the two of them playing in the AFL.
Very proud of them. Very proud of them. They all played rugby league when they were little. They all played rugby league from when they were about 2 till they were about Kieran was, I think he was the third, and my middle son played. All three of them played rugby league, except Reece stayed at rugby league, and he went on to play for Canterbury. They won a New South Wales Cup in 2010 with Josh. Josh Reynolds, I think, was the halfback. Yeah, Josh Reynolds. Yeah. So Reese went all the way through. Didn't quite get the first grade, but just underneath the New South Wales Cup. And Kieran then about 13 or 14, Kieran was playing league. Then Aussie Rules, he played in the carnival, and the Aussie Rules guys, he played in some carnival for the school, the Paul Kelly Cup. They liked the way that he played, even though he couldn't kick the ball very good. But he go, no, we can teach you. So we can teach you, and that's how it went. Because at that stage in rugby league, it was really difficult for if you were a smaller kid and you weren't. He was 13 and he wasn't very big, and they wanted all the bigger kids.
Yeah.
They wanted all the bigger kids, and when they picked their rep teams, because all kids want to play rep teams, they wanted the big kids who were like 100 kilos, and Kieran was probably about 45 kilos. And yeah, and he liked the fact that they picked him in the stateside, and they wanted him to play, and it wasn't a question of size. Whereas rugby league in that year, it was a question of size.
Yeah.
And then he said to me, he said, "Oh, Dad, how would you feel if I didn't play?" And I think he was 14 when he told me that. I said, "No, whatever you do, whatever you want to do, Kieran, that's fine with me." And then he just played Aussie rules after that.
Yeah.
And then he went through the Pennant Hills, the sort of the Swans academies, made the stateside 16s and 17s and 18s, and then got drafted. And Brandon's about 6 years younger than Kieran, and I think he looked up to Kieran, and he wanted to sort of replicate himself on Kieran, because he could see similar obstacles to him, because he wasn't that big a kid as well. So he went and played too. So yeah, to have two boys, I think they've all played sport. Yeah, Reese Reese played till he was 23, 24. He loves his footy. Now Reese is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's an instructor.
Yeah. Nice.
He's a black belt as well. He's got that as part of his training. He's been training for about 10 years. With the BJJ. Actually, I started off with Kieran with the BJJ when he was about 13. He went for a couple of years, and then he dropped out, and then I kept going. And then Brandon wasn't into it. Brandon's very, very smart. So he's real right into music, and very artistic, and he's very clever on the computer, that sort of stuff. So he was, but he went his own way, and yeah, he had success as well. So yeah, mate, I've been very lucky. Like, all the kids have worked hard and to get where they've got, and all you do as a parent. You got kids yourself?
Oh, mate. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You just want to see them happy, doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
and just encourage them to live their dream. And Kieran got to live his dream. They won a premiership in 2012. We were there at the MCG when they won the grand final. And he played really well that day in the grand final. Kicked 2 or 3 goals, and a couple of one was a real turning point in the game there when they beat Hawthorn. So when I hugged him in the dressing room after the game, I've never hugged anyone the way I hugged him that moment after the game. It was like, he was just like, my body was just coursing with adrenaline, and so was his, and it was just fantastic. It was just fantastic to see the success and as a parent, I think you're more happier for their success than your own. And that's true. I didn't win a competition, but I was so happy for my son to win a competition. Yeah, that it was the greatest feeling ever as a parent.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I sort of resonate with Kieran and Brennan's things into AFL. Mine was a bit different in the sense of I was a bigger body, but all my mates at school, like moving to Perth, were just in all, because I could kick a ball in a long way. So they wanted me to come play AFL because I could kick the ball twice as far as everyone else in the team. So I went and played and ended up becoming good at it. I got to the South Fremantle development squads all the way up to about Colts, so under 18s, and then I lost passion for a lot of sports because I went from basically cricket and all the development squads with that into AFL with all the development squads, and it just kept going every year, and burnt myself out. So
Oh, did you? Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was my own fault. My old man tried to warn me about it, but I was young and dumb, and no, I'll be able to handle that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's um, but being in that,
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't have any regrets about it because I've taken things from AFL into or rugby league into AFL and vice
Mm.
versa, and I
Mm.
teach it into my kids today.
Mm.
My kids try to kick the ball, and I'm like, no, teaching them certain ways how to kick the ball, so they
Mm.
can. It's not
Yeah.
about trying to kick as far as me, but just being able to have the right technique, and I learned that through AFL. It wasn't through rugby league with the technique.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's good. Yeah. Yeah. Kieran would have been a very good, very, very good AFL player. Yeah. If he'd have stuck. Yeah. Once you learn how to kick a ball, they can drop it on a 5 cent piece from 30, 40 meters, and that skill as a 5'8" or a halfback is invaluable. Yeah, but he picked up that skills from Aussie rules. So, he was always a tenacious tackler. They're all good, all good. Well, they're all good defenders. Um, yeah. So that was good. That was very good.
That's one of the things I loved about watching Kieran play was his tackling. He's
Yeah.
just ferocious tackling in the midfield.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I
They
have
always
to
used to put him
apologise.
on. Hey.
I have to apologise. I don't remember seeing Brendan play because I haven't watched much AFL in the last few years.
Yeah.
But I do remember watching Kieran play, especially when he first came in. So yeah,
Yeah.
he was a really good player. And my grandfather and my dad are huge Swans fans. So
Were they? Right. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so
But
yeah, all the Swans
when he
games.
came through. When he came through, they used to put him on when they played Geelong. They put him on Garry Ablett Jr. all the time. That's a bit of a challenge being on Garry Ablett Jr. A great player. There's a famous father and son. And because he knew how to tackle Kieran, so you always you hear stories back and Ablett's going, oh, not they had a word for like what Kieran was or Kieran Jack, which is he always at him. That was like a word that they used to use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what he was. He was tenacious. I loved it. I loved watching it. Um, yeah, and it's a credit to him and your whole family that you've had two boys make it to the AFL and your other son make it to New South Wales Cup. Like as a whole
mm,
family, that's
yeah,
a
pretty
lot
good.
of people don't even have one kid do it. So yeah,
No,
it's great to see.
no, yeah, and Reese is I said he's a BJJ black belt now, and
Yeah,
that's a great achievement. That's a great achievement for anyone. That's 10 years of hard work to get there. So equally proud of him as well.
yeah, definitely. I do want to jump onto something a bit personal with you, if you don't mind. I was talking to Ian Roberts the other day about and we didn't go into too much detail, but about that court case that you guys had with each other. Um, how did you find that whole situation? And once the court case was settled, obviously you guys settled outside of court. Um, how do you find that whole process? And also, are you on speaking terms with Ian?
Yeah. Well, we have spoken since then, but just going back a little bit, sort of what happened that day, just to clarify, so people understand. Um, we played Manly at Leichhardt Oval. Matthew Ridge caught the ball from a kick downfield. We took him back in a tackle, myself and Tim Brasher. Um, a melee erupted from there, and there was a bit of push and shove, and punches were thrown from both parties. And Ian's come in, and for whatever reason, he singled me out. And probably 8 to 10 punches later, and I was held by a couple of Manly blokes. Cliffy Lyons was one, and Darryl Williams was another. And the referee sent us both to the sin bin for what had happened. Both sent off, Roberts and myself. And I just said, look, he said, I told him at the court, when the court goes, he said, I got you, Jack. I said, you got me? Like, have a look at me. You got me. You're it was, I don't know why he did what he did that day. I certainly didn't sledge him. I didn't say anything to him. He just lost it for whatever reason. And we both got sent off. And it was a huge story at the time on the front page of the paper. And what really upset me was that the league took no action. The league said that Ian Roberts had no case to answer for. And that really upset. Like I spent 3 days in Petersham Private Hospital on a drip. I could have had an infection go to the brain. I could have been in a really serious situation. And the league just said, nothing. Ian Roberts has got no case to answer. And I said, that's not right. I go out there to play footy, and I play footy as hard as anyone, but you cannot run in, hit a bloke repeatedly, and when I'm held and I couldn't defend myself, and think that's okay. And that's why I made a decision to take him to court, because I wanted justice. As a player, I wanted justice more than anything else. I wanted it to be known, because rumours had come out that I'd said stuff to him or whatever, and I hadn't said a word to him. And I wanted him to be accountable for what he did. Because at the time, Jim Coman said that if he wasn't at the judiciary at the time, but he said if that happened when I was around, he would have got 10 to 12 weeks for what he did. But under John Quayle and Ken Arthurson, nothing happened. They just brushed their hands of it. That's nothing to do with us. Matters sorted. Anyway, so I made the decision, that probably at the expense of ever playing for a representative footy again, that I was going to take him to court, and he was going to be held accountable. It took 6 years or whatever, 5 years, and we did take him to court. He did take him to court, and his first witness that he called was Matthew Ridge. And we couldn't have had a better witness for Matthew Ridge to get up there and give his evidence, because Matthew Ridge had written a book in between time about what happened that day. It was a whole chapter he wrote about in his book. And he never once mentions in his book that, that if I sledged him or I said something, it was, so that just backed up the fact that I didn't, because if I had have said something, it would have been in the book. Anyway, so Matthew Ridge gave his evidence, and he thought he was going to be there about half an hour. Then all of a sudden he pulled out the book and said, "Well, that's different to what you're saying, Mr. Ridge, in book page 282 of your book. This your book that you wrote, yeah? Or you said this, and this at the time." So all of a sudden he was backtracking about everything that he said. So he backtracked on everything that he'd said and what he was trying to say in the courtroom to what was in the book. So really, we won the case in the first hour. Anyway, went for 3 days, 4 days. And the judge said, to Mr. Roberts' defence, he said, "Any chance Mr. Roberts can take the stand? We need to get things moving." And then Mr. Roberts didn't want to take the stand. That's when they wanted to settle, because they didn't want him to take the stand. At the front of the courtroom, I did speak to him. He got too close to my wife. He didn't realise what my wife looks like, and my wife is sitting there. I love my wife. She's pretty courageous, and she said to him, "Excuse me, I'd like to know why you bashed up my husband." And he looked. "So I'd like to know why you bashed up my husband." And then he realised who she was, and he just looked at Donna, and he just went, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did." And I'd seen the talk, so I brushed over. He said, he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I know you're sorry, but you're only sorry because you've been next in the bloody courtroom there. That's why you're sorry." Since then, he's written an article with Daniel Payne, where he does apologise for what he did, what he said. He said, "I had every right to take him to court for what he did. It was a gutless act, what he did that day. So he's taken responsibility for it, and I had every right to do what I did by taking him to court." I respect him for that opinion, and it shouldn't have had to come to that. But the only reason that I did it, because I just wasn't given justice by the league. They denied me of that, and look, they even said at the time that anyone that runs third man into a fight, you'll get 6 weeks or 8 weeks for fighting if you're third man in. And that's the worst thing that can happen, being third bloke in. Two blokes go for it, and then all of a sudden it's on for everyone. That just disrupts, and that's exactly what happened. that's exactly what happened, and they exonerated Ian Roberts for his actions. And I just found it very hard to believe that they could, their values and principles were different to mine, and say one thing and do another. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's 30 years ago since it happened, and I still get upset about it. Yeah, because it should never it should never have happened. And certainly I didn't sledge the bloke. I didn't say anything to him. He knows that. I know that. Everyone else knows it, but it's a rumor that's out there. So it's just to clarify that's what happened. And that's why I did what I did.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you giving a bit of a backstory to the people that do watch this. I didn't want to go into the story without you. If you wanted to, it's just I know it would have been a touchy subject, but I do
Yeah.
appreciate you
Oh, mate, well,
giving
I've got
your view
nothing
on it.
to hide, Jamie. I've got nothing to hide. I know what happened. So I'm happy to talk about it because I know what happened. Um, and so I'm happy to clear the air. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that, mate.
no
Yeah.
worries.
Anyway,
Uh,
we'll jump off that subject, mate. Yeah. Get into something a bit more. Um, you were saying before at the start of the interview, mate, that you're coming over here in May um, to promote the rugby league and
Yep,
the pathway system and all that.
yep.
What exactly are you trying to put into place, and like what are you trying to achieve by
Well,
coming over?
yeah, you've got over there. You've got pathways and participation people over there in WA. I'm sure around Perth. Your game development officers that get the kids to play rugby league. They'll go to primary schools, they go to high schools, they'll go for the guys and for the girls. And we run the same programs over here in New South Wales. So I'm part of that team now, and I'm there really just to help the kids if they've got any questions. I walk in and I'll talk to the kids, and what I'll do is I'll say I've got a bit of a surprise for you kids, and said, oh yeah, and, they'll be kindergarten or they'll be year 1 or year 2 or even up to year 10. Um, I've got a bag with me, and I don't know what's in the bag. And what I've done is I want the kids to see my golden boot. All right. So I'll get out my golden boot and I'll say, look at this. And they'll go, wow, look at that. Yeah, look at that. And I said, this is my golden boot. So I was just like you when I was 10, playing rugby league. I never thought I would have won this one during my career. And what I can do, you can do it too. If you apply yourself and work hard and do what the coaches tell you, one day you might win a golden boot. And you come up to me and say, guess what, Mr. Jack? I won a golden boot too. So we do that as a bit of yeah. I reckon kids are fantastic. They probably don't remember what you say, but they do remember the golden boot. And then the kids all get a hold of it, and they get to hold it and touch it, and have a bit of a smell of it, and all that sort of stuff. And so that's also what I do. And if there's just to talk to the kids or the parents about different pathways through to getting to as far as they want to get. Whether it be NRLW, or they want to play New South Wales Cup, or they just want to play in the NRL,
Yeah.
or whatever their dreams may be. Maybe they want to be an administrator. So if I can help them, point them in the right direction, I will. Because when I was growing up, you never had access to someone that had played first grade, or very rarely someone who's played first grade, let alone play for Australia or play for New South Wales. This didn't happen, and now there's lots of people out there coaching, but now I sort of fit in there as a bit of a conduit between the coaching and the players, and to help them, give them my knowledge. Brad Fittler's also an ambassador for the league, just like me, and I'm sure Brad will give his information too, just to help kids to become, yeah. So that's where I sort of fit in, and again, obviously with the schools as well, to help them on their participation and pathways. That's what we do.
Yeah. Cool. Are you looking at going to any of the local clubs while you're over here to have a look
Yeah, we
and see
are.
how? Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I think we'll be there for a couple of days. Not quite sure of the itinerary at the moment, but yeah, that's the plan, is to go and to meet the GDOs or game development officers, and to see what they they'll come across, see how it is over there. Obviously, there's great participation over there in WA. That's fantastic. So we want to make it easier for the kids. They've got an opportunity to speak to me if they want to ask me any questions, whatever they can about footy. I'm happy to give them as much information as I can and get them to love rugby league. The greatest game of all.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that I think we've Perth has struggled with is getting people we get like yourself with that big name to come over, promote the game. You know, it's great that you're already a part of that NRL system. You know, with the pathways and stuff. But I think if the more we get these players to come over with the big names, and an example is a Greg Inglis to come over and see some of this the schools and go to the local clubs where these kids what are able to go, holy crap, that's GI or that's Jonathan Thurston or that's Darren Lockyer or whoever it is. You know, I think that's what the for the NRL, I guess, to promote the game into Adelaide, Northern Territory, and WA.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I
Yeah.
think that's what they need is to see those big name players.
Yeah.
And you're doing your part of it. I think, the other guys need to, I guess, help out as well.
But you're right there. And I had a conversation with my wife only today, and we were just talking, and we said, the kids, they want to see the players. The kids want to see the first grade players. That's what they want to see.
Yeah.
That's what they identify with. And even though I'm a first grade player from um, 30 years ago. Maybe their parents would know me, but that's who they want. So they want to see the stars. They want to see the stars, and that's perfectly understandable. Like I wanted to see in the Graham Langlanders and the Graham Eadies and the John Doraheys when I was a kid. They're the ones that are top of mind. So it's important to get the stars out there as well as us older guys too.
I think the more that we get people like yourself and these other stars out there, to these regional areas, I guess, the more the game's going to grow.
It is 100%. Yeah, it is. And there's no question. Yeah, there's no question. It will grow. And you've got such a good base over there at the moment. So I'm looking forward to getting over there, mate, in probably about May, and touching base with everyone and having a chat and getting things up and running.
Well, I hope that you come down to my local club. My kids will be playing. I'm coaching or helping coaching down there. So
What's your local club?
the Fremantle Roosters.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
I help as much as I can down there. I've got a couple of kids that are in different grades, so I try to help out as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I've got a few Indigenous kids that are family friends.
Yeah.
I'll be bringing them down to trainings
Good.
and games and stuff to get them involved. They've never played before, so
Yeah.
um,
Excellent.
I'm trying to do my part in getting these kids and the clubs participating, I guess.
Yeah. The Fremantle Roosters. Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Well, that'll be on the hit list there. That'll be on the hit list. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much talent over there. The Indigenous kids are fantastic. That they do it. They're great. They're great athletes. And
Oh yeah,
Aussie rules. They're fantastic. Yes, and they're fantastic in rugby league too. The GIs, as you said, JTs.
yeah,
There's so many great athletes out there, and the Trills, and
yeah,
So the more the merrier.
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, when you do come over, mate, we can catch up for a coffee or a beer.
Yeah, yeah,
While
definitely. Yeah,
you got your few days over, I know you said you were coming over also to see your son and your grandchild
yeah. My
as
grandson.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So
yeah,
hopefully, in that short amount of time that you're here, even if it's just for a cup of coffee,
yeah. That'd be
it'll be
great.
it'll be great to see you and meet you officially.
Yeah, good on you,
Um,
Jamie. Yeah, no, it'd be good, mate. We will definitely catch up. I'll let you know when we are over there, and it'd be great to introduce you to the other people. My boss will be over there too, so we could be able to catch up and start to work things out to help you to grow the game over there in WA.
oh, that'd be great, mate. That'd be greatly appreciated, mate. So, but Garry, we'll end the interview there. Garry Jack, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA. Much love to you and your family, and good luck with everything coming up.
Thank you, Jamie. And look, I haven't met you before till tonight. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. You're a great young man and doing a great job over there in WA. And I look forward to meeting you. And thank you very much for giving us a chance to come on your podcast. And look forward to seeing you soon.
No worries, mate. Thank you so much for your time, buddy.
No worries,
See you,
mate.
mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.